What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. And in this video, I know I highly touted it on social media, on in particular Instagram. This is in fact part 2 of the EP40 Chronicles. And we're basically in this video, we're gonna break down, and ask the question, what happened to Petey? Like, what happened to him? Like, why did he not play so well? Why did his offense suddenly drop off? Now, we're going to be going over a timeline that dates back to January 2024. That's right. We're going to go all the way back to January 2024, just after the All-Star break, when his production actually started taking a dip. And we're going to go over some of the reasons why. And I'm also going to bring up a couple articles dating back to last season that kind of go over that a little bit. We're also going to, as I mentioned, go through a timeline where I basically have 3 different graphics that I did in regards to the timeline. We're going to go through it all up until just before the season started. Now, just a heads up, I'm not going to go over the JT Miller PD stuff. That stuff has been out there and regurgitated so much. We don't need to get into that. So I'm purposely leaving that out. So just so you guys know. But before we get started on the main topic of this video, I want to thank my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art. You may have heard of him. But no, Gassy Jack Art is Sorry, give me one quick sec. Gassy Jack Art produces hockey prints on archival paper and canvas that have been rated to last over 100 years. Their product range features a variety of players from different teams, including the Edmonton Oilers, the Montreal Canadiens, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Calgary Flames, the Colorado Avalanche, and your Vancouver Canucks, as well as more. Now, for those of you interested in some of Jack's art, go ahead and check him out at gassyjackart.com. As you can see in the picture in front of you, I have 4 prints of my own, currently expecting 4 more. And right now they have an end of season sale where you can buy 2 prints and get an additional 2 of them for free. Yeah, you heard me right. Buy 2 prints, which are about $20 to $25 each, and you get 2 of them for free. Like, you can't ask for a better deal than that. So go ahead and check them out, gassyjackart.com. Feel free to let them know that I sent you. And yeah, check them out. Trust me, you're not going to regret purchasing these prints. They are absolutely incredibly detailed and incredibly well done. And as I mentioned, you're just not going to regret spending the money on these. And it's something that you could have 50 to 100 years from now. So go ahead and check them out, gassyjackart.com. Now back to our video topic at hand. I'm going to actually move down and bring up an article before I get into the timeline stuff. I'm going to bring up an article from Canucks Army from Elias Pettersson, basically a deep dive on Canucks' Elias Pettersson since the NHL All-Star break. We're going to break this down. I'll scroll down a bit. It's from April 26, 2024. So, and it goes as follows. Okay, so Elias Pettersson hasn't been himself. Yeah, the Swedish Star center inked his 8-year, $92.8 million contract extension on March 3rd, 2024, in the midst of his 3rd consecutive 30-goal season, following up the 102-point campaign last year with an 89-point performance this time around. For all intents and purposes, Pettersson is a core member of the Canucks forward group and has the talent and ability to back that up. That's why his struggles this postseason have been so pronounced. Pettersson hasn't exactly looked quite like the elite centerman that he is ever since the All-Star break and against Nashville in round 1. He's been floundering. Consistently the worst Canuck through the first 2 games by the stats. Pettersson's misses have become more common than his hits. It's a glaring hole on a team that could definitely use his offensive contributions, especially as they look to reclaim home ice advantage. So what's happened since the All-Star break? For one, Pettersson's shooting percentage has bottomed out. Prior to February 3rd, Pettersson was shooting at a 15.07% clip at 5-on-5, which was around 5% more than the league average. Since the All-Star break, that shooting percentage dropped to 7.32, fluctuating to a good couple of percentage points below average. This could definitely be attributed to a slump, but Pettersson also started shooting less post February 3rd, which was the All-Star break. He went from averaging 1.49 shots per game to 1.24. The selectiveness should have helped his shooting percentage, but clearly it didn't. As a result, Pettersson also struggled to score the same effectiveness at 5-on-5. He went from potting 11 even strength goals in the first 49 games of the season to just 3 goals in the final 33 appearances for the rest of the year. A lack of shooting probably doesn't help with this, but with the drop in both shot attempts and shooting percentage, it suggests that Pettersson has been getting a bit unlucky to go along with a possible loss of confidence. The drop from 1.051 PDO to 1.008 PDO has never seemed so big. Here's the thing. Pettersson, here's the thing. Despite not shooting as much as he did prior to the break, Pettersson was actually on the ice for more high danger chances per game. Not only did his Corsi share rise, but his expected goals for percentage, which is what XGF percent means, jumped from 49.53 before February 3rd to 56.79 after. And a big part is Petey's playmaking game. He's always been a smart player, and with his vision, he's looking to set up things for his line mates. It's almost like he won a passing competition or something. So there's a little glimpse of that article. I want to bring up another one that talks more about his injury. So this is, once again, actually, you know what? Before I really show this, let's get into the timeline. Yeah. Let's get into the timeline of this. So yeah, just get back. Let's bring up the timeline. Remove that. And so yeah, here's our first EP40 timeline. So as was mentioned in that article, EP40 has 64 points, 27 goals, 37 assists going into the All-Star break. He was on pace for over 100 points. He had his best month of the season in January, managing to get 14 goals, 7 assists, 21 points. The All-Star break occurs on February 3rd, 2024 in Toronto. Post-break, EP40's shooting percentage drops significantly, as we just mentioned, from 15.07 to 7.32. We also mentioned that he begins shooting less, going from an average 1.49 shots per game to 1.24. And as we just mentioned, we basically highlight the things that we just mentioned in that article. His scoring, him going from scoring 11 goals at even strength to 3. And then, him being on the ice for more high danger chances. And then we also mentioned the expected goals for. Let's take a look at the second part of this timeline. And this is where things get interesting, which I will bring up the article. Where is it? This one. Oh, so this is an article from Sportsnet from February 29th, 2024. So I'm going to. So here's an article from February 29th, 2024, and it basically goes over a potential trade that the Canucks were trying to do between themselves and the Carolina Hurricanes. So I'm not going to click on the video, but it says here, according to multiple sources, the Vancouver Canucks and Carolina Hurricanes had discussions about Elias Pettersson that advanced to a stage where both the Canucks and the player needed to make serious decisions about where their relationship was headed. The Canucks ultimately decided in favor of another attempt at extending Pettersson, and he, facing the possibility Vancouver could move him, allowed agents Pat Bouchon and J.P. Barry to resume negotiations. Previously, the talented forward indicated he preferred to wait until after the season. It says no extension is complete at this time, but there certainly is momentum in that direction, as Daily Faceoff's Frank Saravelli reported Wednesday. Should it be completed, it will allow the Canucks a very clear picture of their future cap situation heading into the trade deadline. Now, if we go back, so I'm going to go back to this one, remove that. So as I mentioned here in the EP40 timeline, trade rumors begin swirling around EP40 as the trade deadline approaches. We mentioned them having discussions with the Carolina Hurricanes around Elias Pettersson. And obviously Pettersson had made it known that he wanted to wait until after the season to negotiate his new contract. Obviously, the team was not keen on that. They wanted a decision, and they weren't willing to wait. So as I mentioned in this EP40 timeline, trade talks got to a point where both sides needed to make a decision. Reported trade, and then here's one that isn't mentioned in the article. And this is just a report. This isn't confirmed or anything like that, but it's been rumored. Reportedly, that trade involving the Carolina Hurricanes and the Canucks involving Petey was reported to have been and rumored to have been nixed by Francesco Aquilini himself. So that is the rumor that's dating back to last year that Aquilini got involved and said, no, we're not trading this guy. And then, as was mentioned, contract negotiations resume between the Canucks and Pettersson. Pettersson wanted to wait till the end of the season, as we mentioned. And then a mere few days later, after that article came out, March 3rd, 2024, Elias Pettersson signs his 8-year, $92.8 million extension. So within 3 days or so of that article coming out, he signs. So I thought that was a little interesting, considering, the timing of that. And then we mentioned his production continues to decline despite having signed that new extension and having that monkey off his back. His production continued to decline. He finishes March with only 9 points, 4 goals, 5 assists. His shooting percentage did increase slightly. And then in the month of April, he finishes April with only 5 points, and his shooting percentage is down once again, and it is down to a 6.3%. And then moving on to the playoffs, Pettersson only gets 6 points in 13 playoff games, a goal and 5 assists, and his shooting percentage is down even more, down to 4.5%, which is really, really bad. So it's starting to look like he was shooting less, so his shooting percentage was down. So I'm starting to think it was a mental thing. I don't know if it was an injury to his wrist or something like that, but he was shooting less, and that was a reason why his production, or his at least his goals, were going down. Perhaps he was focusing more on playmaking than actually putting up points or scoring himself. But if we take a look at the next timeline image, this talks more about the end of the season and after the playoffs. Obviously, Pettersson reveals at the end that he had been dealing with a knee injury since January. The injury became worse over time and was later revealed to be tendonitis by Rick Tocchet. Pettersson only missed a few practices and optional skates due to the injury, so he didn't miss any games. He just missed a few practices and some optional skates, so it was under the radar. The exact game or time of the injury when it occurred isn't known, but I find it interesting that he suffered the injury in January, and January was his best month of the season, where he put up the most points. So perhaps did that have an effect on him suffering the injury? And was he just trying to, put up the points and the injury got worse? I don't know. But this is one thing that Pettersson said at the end of season media availability. He felt as though his knee simply needed time to heal and had no concerns for it long term, which ended up being, wrong, because it did affect him in the long term. He does go on to be quoted as saying in the end of season media availability, which you can probably find anywhere on YouTube, He was looking forward to getting back on the horse, training hard, and be in the best shape next season. Now, I want to highlight that last little bit. He was looking forward to getting back on the horse, training hard, and being in the best shape next season. Think about that for a second. Be in the best shape next season. Well, he ended up not doing that. So, and we'll get into that in a second. He ended up needing to work around his knee injury, which we all heard during the offseason while he was training in Sweden. And then Pettersson comes back to training camp not in shape, or not in as good shape as he should be, and management and coaching staff are not happy about it. Players also are reportedly to have been not happy about it, including, and more specifically, JT Miller. That's really the only reference to Miller that we're going to make when it comes to this. But again, he says at the end of season press availability that he's looking to he's looking to train hard and be in the best shape next season. Well, he didn't follow through with that. He ended up not coming to camp in shape. Now, we don't know how he worked around his knee injury and what type of training he did. And yeah, so clearly he spoke too soon on, perhaps Pettersson should not have said, be in the best shape. If he's not going to follow through with it. Not that I'm saying that he wasn't trying. I'm not saying that at all. But, he said he was going to be in the best shape next season, and he wasn't. So, moving back. But now that makes us wonder what exactly happened. So that begs us the question, what exactly happened? I personally think it was a combination of things. So I think it was a combination of the injury, the knee injury. Now, I personally have never had tendonitis, so I don't know exactly the process when it comes to that. So I can't really comment on that injury in particular. But clearly, Pettersson thought it was a simple, he just needed to rest his knee. It wasn't a big issue. Clearly, it was. It was to the point where, he had to train around it. So, and then I think it was also a combination of pressure. This new big contract that he had just signed, there was a lot of pressure on him to perform, especially considering the way he performed towards the end of the season and in the playoffs. There was all that pressure on him. He was obviously not happy with the way he played to finish out the season, considering that, as we mentioned in that first timeline image, he was on pace for over 100 points again. And so he probably had, so it was injury, pressure, and then also probably some noise, a little bit of noise as well, with, people not happy about the contract, and perhaps maybe even Pettersson felt a little pressured. Speaking of pressure, he probably felt pressured to sign that contract because, the Canucks seemed like they were on the brink of trading him, and he's like, okay, I'll sign. Perhaps it was a tactic on management's part. I can't confirm that, but it could have been a tactic on their part to try and get him to sign an extension. Could it have come from above, from the Aquaman himself? Who knows? But as I mentioned, I think what happened to Petey was a combination of things. It was the injury, pressure, maybe a lack of maturity as well. Perhaps Pettersson, signed this deal, was like, oh, I got the money, I can relax and ease off a little bit. I don't have to train as hard. No, it doesn't work that way, dude. I think he had that mindset, going into it. I don't think he took, training as seriously as he did probably in the past. So I think those things are what contributed to his poor season this past year. So yeah, that is my opinion on it. But I want to know what you guys think is the reason for Pettersson's lack of production this past season, and why he, didn't answer the bell when it came to performing at a level that he's supposed to, considering the contract that he signed. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. Do you guys agree with me that it was a combination of things? Was it the injury? Was it, there being pressure, and maybe outside noise, and just him just not being mature enough, and, not basically, thinking, like, oh, I got all this money now. So, but, I do think it is very, I'm trying to think of a word. I think it was very odd that, Pettersson played so well the year before, has 102 points, and then all of a sudden, right after the All-Star break, it just gone. No, it just caves. It doesn't make any sense to me that it would just vanish. I do think perhaps this knee injury was a lot more serious than people are leading on to. And perhaps, this is one thought that I thought of while I was doing my research for this, is perhaps Pettersson should not have gone to the All-Star break. If he had a knee injury suffered in January, perhaps he should have taken that extra time to rest and not do the All-Star or game and All-Star break. Perhaps he should have just, skipped out on it. And perhaps it was a pride thing for him to go. Obviously, with so many Canucks going to the All-Star break, I get that. But at the same time, if you have some sort of injury, don't risk it. So perhaps that could have been a decision that he could have made. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of that in particular. Do you think he should have skipped out on it? But that is my opinion on what happened to Petey. I think it was, as I keep mentioning, combination of the injury, pressure, a lack of maturity, and, he kind of cracked and crumbled. And I also think it's a bit of a mental thing too for Petey. Everyone's got all this pressure on him, saying all these things, about his contract and the way he played, saying like, oh, he's not an $11.6 million player. I think a lot of that got to Petey as well. So I think there was a mental aspect to it as well. And he just kind of cracked. And yeah, so that is what I think what happened. This is, of course, as I said, part 2 of the EP40 Chronicles. Part 3, we're going to talk about, do you think Petey can bounce back next season? I know in part 1, we discussed, will they or won't they trade him? And then this one, we were talking about what exactly happened to him and did a bit of a in-depth look at the timeline from January 2024 until this past, just before the start of the season. And part 3, as I mentioned, we're going to do a video talking about and basically asking the question, will he bounce back? Now, I'm not going to answer that until the next video, but as I mentioned in the first video, I do not think they're going to trade EP40. I do think they're going to keep him. They want to see if he can bounce back. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing part 3. I haven't decided when part 3 is going to come out. Perhaps maybe next week. I will keep you guys informed and let you know. But as always, I hope you guys like this breakdown of what happened to Petey and what I think actually happened. Mentioning that it was a combination of things. I do think it's unfortunate that this happened to Petey. And as I mentioned, I don't think they're going to trade him. I don't. I think they're going to keep him. They invested so much money into this one guy. I don't think they're just going to get rid of him, because of one bad season. Keep in mind, keep that in mind too. He's had really one bad season. So obviously we can't look into the future and see how he will be next season, but he's had one bad season, and you can't really write someone off who's as talented as Petey after one bad season. A lot of people did that with Miller. After he had a down season, they kind of somewhat wrote him off. And then he comes back, and then he has a 100-point season. I know you can't really compare Petey and Miller because they're two completely different players, but just think about it. Miller had a down season, and then he had a 100-point season the next year. Petey had a spectacular season, then he had a down season. Hopefully it translates into a better season next year. But once again, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And on that note, if you guys did like this video, feel free to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Canucks content, whether that's Vancouver Canucks or the Abbotsford Canucks, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. If you want to connect with us on social media, you can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change to find our Facebook page. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on X at LineChangeVan. You can find us on TikTok at the.line.change.po. And once again, feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. And if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow as well and rate and review us. But that's going to do it for this video. As always, let's go Canucks. Let's go Abbey Canucks. My Abbey Canucks game recap will be coming out after this video. I'm going to finish this video and then I'm going to record that one. But yeah, let's go Abbey, advancing to the Calder Cup finals. Let's go. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.